He said it was just acting, until the kiss lingered a second too long and the cameras weren't even rolling. What started as rehearsals for a harmless BL film turned into stolen touches, public confessions, and a line neither of us could uncross. If you're ready for tension, scandal, and a love story that refuses to stay on script, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me whose side you're on. If anyone had told me that agreeing to write a low-budget student film would lead to me being pinned against a rehearsal room wall by the most unfairly attractive man in the department, I would have chosen accounting as a major. Unfortunately, I chose art. And unfortunately, he chose me. My name is Aurelian Vale, screenwriting prodigy, chronic overthinker, and certified disaster in the presence of beautiful men. The film department at Aurelian University had a reputation for producing brilliance and breakdowns in equal measure. I had experienced both. What I had not experienced, until that morning, was Zephyr Caelum. Zephyr wasn't just handsome. That word was too mild. Too domestic. Too safe. Zephyr was cinematic. Tall. Sharp jaw. Dark hair that fell into his eyes like it had its own dramatic lighting team. Lips that looked like they belonged on a Renaissance painting. Specifically one where the artist had clearly been in love with his model. And apparently he was going to be the lead in my script. I found out when Professor Delacroix adjusted her glasses and said, Zephyr volunteered. Volunteered. For a BL romance. For my BL romance. I stared at him from across the lecture hall. He was leaning back in his chair, arms crossed, expression lazy and amused, as if he hadn't just signed up to kiss another man on camera. Specifically me. Because the writer always had to stand in for rehearsal chemistry. I swallowed. Art. Zephyr caught me staring. He winked. I nearly ascended. The rehearsal room smelled like dust, ambition, and tension. I clutched my script to my chest while Zephyr stretched like a cat who knew he owned the room, and possibly my nervous system. So, he said casually, rolling his shoulders. You're Aurelian. I nodded. He stepped closer. Why was he stepping closer? Cute name. My brain left the chat. Thank you. He tilted his head, studying me. You blush easily. I do not. You're doing it right now. Heat surged into my face like betrayal. I looked down at the script. Bad decision. Zephyr moved even closer. Close enough that I could see the tiny scar near his collarbone. Close enough to notice how unfairly perfect his mouth was. Close enough to feel his body heat brushing against mine like a threat. We need realism, he said. For the film, I squeaked. Yes, the film. His voice dipped lower, softer. Chemistry can't be faked. I wrote it, I argued weakly. That should be enough. He leaned down slightly so we were eye level. Writing isn't feeling. That line should have been illegal. My heart did something athletic and embarrassing. He took the script from my hands and flipped to the confession scene. This part, he murmured, where my character pins yours to the wall. My stomach dropped. That's just for dramatic tension. Of course, he said smoothly. Just acting. And before I could protest, he pressed me against the rehearsal room wall. Not roughly. Not violently. But decisively. His hand landed beside my head, palm flat against the wall. The other settled lightly at my waist. Lightly. Lightly but not accidentally. My lungs forgot how to function. Zephyr. Relax, he whispered, his breath warm against my cheek. You wrote this. Yes, but I didn't expect. You didn't expect commitment? His thumb brushed the side of my waist. I made a sound that absolutely did not belong in an academic setting. He smirked. You're responsive. I am not. His face moved closer. Close enough that I could feel the faint brush of his breath over my lips. The room felt smaller. Hotter. I was hyper-aware of everything. The solid line of his body. The strength in the arm caging me in. The slow rise and fall of his chest. Say the line, he murmured. I blinked. What? Page 23. You confess first. This was torture. I can't remember. He leaned closer. Then I'll improvise. My brain exploded. His fingers tightened slightly at my waist. Not possessive. Not yet. Just enough to anchor me. You're trembling, he observed. Because you're invading my personal space. For art. I glared at him. He smiled like I was adorable. Which was worse. Fine, I muttered, forcing the line out. I don't care if this ruins everything. I'd rather lose you honestly than keep you pretending. There was a flicker in his eyes. Something sharp. Something real. For a split second, the teasing vanished. Then he lifted his free hand and brushed a strand of hair from my forehead. I froze. That, he said softly, was good. His thumb lingered. Too long. I swallowed. This is still just acting, right? His gaze dropped to my lips. Silence stretched between us, thick and charged. He leaned in. Closer. Closer. My heart hammered so loudly I was certain the entire building could hear it. And just as his mouth was a breath away from mine, he stopped, pulled back, smiled. See, he said lightly. You have great reactions. This film is going to be phenomenal. I stared at him, speechless, infuriated, devastated, relieved, confused. He stepped away, adjusting his shirt like he hadn't just rewritten my internal chemistry. Same time tomorrow? He asked casually. For rehearsal? For realism. I watched him walk out of the room with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what he'd done. And as the door clicked shut, I touched my lips. They were still tingling. It's just acting, I told myself. Just acting. But something told me Zephyr Caelum had never done anything halfway in his life. And I had a terrifying suspicion. Neither had I. By the third rehearsal, I had accepted 3 things. 1. Zephyr Caelum was a menace. 2. My body had zero loyalty to my dignity. 3. I was in very, very dangerous waters. The campus now believed we were building chemistry. That was the official term. The unofficial term was, why are they looking at each other like that? I tried to maintain professionalism. I truly did. I showed up with revised pages. I brought highlighters. I even wore looser clothes in a desperate attempt to prevent further waist-grabbing incidents. Zephyr noticed immediately. Are you hiding from me? He asked, tugging lightly at the sleeve of my oversized sweater. I'm protecting myself. From what? You. He smiled like that was the most flattering accusation he'd ever received. Professor Delacroix had given us a new directive: live the dynamic, study intimacy, understand closeness. Which, in her artistic mind, meant. Zephyr leaned over my shoulder in the cafeteria. Sit closer, he murmured. I am sitting. You're socially distancing. We're not in a pandemic. He slid his tray aside and physically moved my chair closer to his. The scraping sound echoed like doom. Zephyr, I hissed. For research, he replied smoothly, resting his arm along the back of my chair. His fingers grazed my shoulder. Our characters are secretly in love. They crave proximity. I crave oxygen. You're dramatic. You're dangerous. He leaned down slightly, lips hovering near my ear. You're flustered. My spine straightened like it had been struck by lightning. Across the cafeteria, 2 film majors stared at us openly. Zephyr noticed, and instead of adjusting, he intertwined his fingers with mine. I malfunctioned. What are you doing? Observational study, he said calmly. Notice how your pulse spikes. You can't feel that. I can. His thumb stroked slowly across my knuckles. Oh no, that was not acting. No audience. No camera. No professor watching. Just us. I tried to pull my hand back. He tightened his hold, not forcefully, just enough to say stay. You wrote yearning beautifully, he said softly, gaze steady. But you've never experienced it. I have experienced plenty. He tilted his head. Name one. I opened my mouth, closed it. He smirked. That's what I thought. I hated how easily he dismantled me. The rumors began the following day. Someone had posted a blurry photo of us holding hands in the cafeteria. The caption read, Method acting or campus scandal. My phone exploded with messages. Are you two dating? Is this promo? Wait, are you actually into each other? I cornered Zephyr outside the studio. This is your fault. How? You escalated. I committed. You committed to chaos. He leaned casually against the wall, studying me like I was a particularly interesting script draft. Are you embarrassed? No. Then what are you? I faltered. That was the problem. I didn't know. Because embarrassment wasn't what twisted in my chest when I saw those photos. It was something else. Something warm. Something terrifying. He pushed off the wall and stepped closer. Again with the stepping closer. You're thinking too hard, he said gently. This is beneficial publicity. We didn't agree to fake date for marketing. He paused, then smiled slowly. We didn't? My heart did a violent somersault. I never said yes to fake dating. You didn't say no. That's not consent. He laughed softly. Relax. I'm teasing. I exhaled. Too soon. Unless, he added, voice dropping lower, you'd like to try it properly. My brain left my body and hovered near the ceiling. Properly? public dates, shared spaces, practice emotional intimacy. He brushed imaginary lint from my sweater. We'd have to rehearse affection. Affection? His eyes darkened slightly. Yes. The air between us thickened. I don't think that's necessary, I managed weakly. He studied my face. You're afraid. I am cautious. You're afraid, he repeated, softer now. Of what? He leaned closer. Of liking it. Silence. Heavy. Charged. I looked up at him, determined to hold eye contact this time. Big mistake. Because Zephyr wasn't smirking. He wasn't teasing. He was looking at me like I was something he wanted. You're imagining things, I whispered. Am I? His hand moved again. This time to my waist. Slowly. Deliberately. My breath hitched. Zephyr. Yes. We're in public. Good. That word should not have sounded like that. His thumb traced a small, almost absent-minded circle against my side. I was overheating. You're doing this on purpose. Of course I am. At least you're honest. I've always been honest. About what? His gaze flickered to my mouth again. That I don't do anything halfway. My stomach dropped. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Voices approached. He didn't move. Didn't let go. Didn't even pretend this was professional. Say the line, he murmured suddenly. What line? The one where your character realizes he's in too deep. I swallowed. I never meant to fall for you. The words slipped out before I could stop them. His expression shifted. Not teasing. Not smug. Something softer. Something intense. Good, he whispered. And then, he kissed me. Not rough. Not aggressive. Just warm. Slow. Intentional. His lips pressed against mine with enough pressure to make my thoughts dissolve. For a split second I forgot everything. The rumors. The hallway. The concept of oxygen. My fingers curled into the front of his shirt. He tasted faintly like coffee. And danger. Then footsteps grew louder. Reality snapped back. He pulled away just enough to speak. That, he said calmly, will absolutely improve the scene. I stared at him. Speechless. Heart pounding. Lips tingling. That, I managed faintly, was not in the script. He smiled slowly. I like improvisation. And as he walked away, leaving me standing there like a scandalized, breathless idiot, one thought echoed relentlessly in my mind. That kiss didn't feel like acting. And I was terrified, because I had kissed him back. After the kiss, nothing went back to normal. Not the air between us. Not the way he looked at me. Not the way my body reacted every time he stepped within breathing distance. Zephyr Caelum had kissed me in a hallway full of witnesses, and somehow made it feel like we were the only two people in the world. The video surfaced that night. Someone had filmed it. Of course they had. By morning, the clip had spread through the department like wildfire. Comments flooded in. That tension isn't acting. Are they actually dating? This is promo, I'm sold. I sat on my bed, staring at my phone, replaying the moment in my mind more than the actual video. The way his hand had slid into my waist. The way he had paused just slightly, like giving me a chance to stop him. The way I had it. A knock sounded at my dorm door. I didn't need to check. Only one person knocked like that, 3 slow, confident taps. I opened it. Zephyr stood there, hands in his pockets, hair slightly messy from the wind. His expression wasn't smug this time. It was serious. We need to talk, he said. My pulse jumped. That's usually a bad sentence. Only if you're guilty. I'm not guilty. Neither am I. He stepped inside without waiting for permission. Well, as usual. The room suddenly felt smaller. You saw the video, I said. Yes. And it's effective. I stared at him. That's your concern? He moved closer. No, he admitted quietly. That's not my concern. Silence stretched between us. I crossed my arms, defensive. Then what is? He reached out slowly, fingers brushing my wrist, gently lowering my arms. You. The word landed heavier than it should have. You've been avoiding me, he continued. I've been thinking. That's dangerous. I need clarity. He tilted his head slightly. About what? About whether I'm just part of your performance. His hand stilled. For once, he didn't have a witty comeback ready. You think I'd rehearse with you like this, he said softly, if it was just a performance? You're an actor. That's what you do. His jaw tightened. He stepped closer, backing me toward the edge of the bed. There was something different in his eyes tonight. Less teasing. More intensity. Aurelian, he murmured, Look at me. I did. And immediately regretted it. Because he wasn't playful. He was vulnerable. Tell me, he said quietly, did that kiss feel like acting to you? My throat tightened. No. His hand rose, brushing lightly along my jaw, fingers warm against my skin. It didn't feel like acting to me either. My breath hitched. His thumb traced the curve of my lower lip, slow, deliberate. And that terrifies you, he whispered. Yes. Why? Because I don't know where the script ends. His lips curved faintly. There is no script here. His hand slid from my jaw to the back of my neck, fingers threading lightly into my hair. Every nerve in my body lit up. Zephyr. I'm tired of pretending this is research. He leaned closer. Not rushing. Not teasing. Just honest. You think I volunteered for this role because it was convenient? He asked quietly. You think I let rumors spread because I wanted attention? I swallowed. Then why? His forehead brushed lightly against mine. Because I've wanted to kiss you since the first table read. My heart stuttered. You barely knew me. I noticed you. His thumb traced slow patterns at the base of my neck, sending warmth spiraling downward. You look at your characters like they're real, he continued. Like they matter. I wanted to know what it would feel like to be looked at that way. Emotion hit harder than desire. That's unfair, I whispered. Why? Because I do look at you that way. His breath faltered. The space between us shifted, thicker, heavier, intimate in a way that had nothing to do with cameras or classrooms. I don't want to be your experiment, I said softly. You're not. Then what am I? He lifted my chin gently. You're the only person I've ever wanted to stop acting for. The confession stole the air from my lungs. And then he kissed me again. This time there was no audience. No hallway. No justification. Just us. His mouth moved against mine slowly, deliberately, like he was memorizing the shape of me. My hand slid up his chest, fingers curling into his shirt as if I needed proof he was real. He deepened the kiss carefully, not demanding, asking. I answered. Softly at first. Then with growing certainty. His hands traveled down my back, resting firmly at my waist. He pulled me closer and I felt the solid warmth of him, steady and grounding. The world narrowed to sensation. To breath. To the way he whispered my name against my lips like it meant something sacred. When we finally pulled apart, my pulse was wild, my thoughts scattered. He rested his forehead against mine again. No cameras, he murmured. No script. Just us. Just us. I searched his face for hesitation. Found none. You're crossing a line, I said faintly. He smiled softly. We crossed it the moment you kissed me back. My cheeks burned. That was reflex. Good reflex. I laughed breathlessly despite myself. His thumb brushed beneath my eye, gentle. We have a premiere in 3 days, he said quietly. Everyone expects a performance. And what are we giving them? He leaned in, lips hovering just shy of mine again. The truth. My heart pounded. And if the truth ruins everything? His eyes softened. Then at least we weren't pretending. He kissed me once more, slow, warm, intentional. And this time when I melted into him, I understood something terrifyingly clear. This wasn't acting. This wasn't rehearsal. This was real. And the line we crossed? There was no going back from it. The premiere was a disaster. A beautiful, heart-stopping, career-altering disaster. I realized this precisely 3 seconds before Zephyr Caelum went off-script in front of a full auditorium. The short film, Between the Lines, had somehow become the most anticipated student project in Edivane University history. The leaked hallway kiss had turned us into campus folklore. People were whispering before the lights even dimmed. Are they together? This better not be queerbaiting. If he doesn't kiss him again, I'm suing. I wanted to evaporate. Zephyr, meanwhile, looked radiant. He squeezed my hand backstage. You're shaking. I might pass out. Dramatic. You're too calm. He leaned closer, lips brushing the shell of my ear. I'm not calm. That was concerning. The final scene required us to perform a live extended confession after the screening. Professor Delacroix called it immersive theater. I called it emotional Russian roulette. The film played. Gasp. Sniffles. One extremely loud, "Oh my God," during our almost kiss scene. And then, the final live moment. We walked onto stage together. Spotlights hit us like interrogation lamps. Zephyr slipped into character instantly. Soft gaze, vulnerable posture, voice low and trembling as he delivered his lines. I was afraid, he said, eyes locked on mine. Afraid that if I told you how I felt, I'd lose you. The audience went silent. I answered with my scripted line, heartbeat hammering. You never had to pretend with me. He was supposed to reply with, then let me try again. Instead, he took a breath and said clearly, I never pretended. My stomach dropped. That was not in the script. The audience leaned forward. Zephyr stepped closer to me. Aurelian, he said. Not my character's name. Mine. The auditorium collectively lost oxygen. This wasn't acting for me. My brain short-circuited. Zephyr, I whispered under my breath. But he kept going. I suggested this script. I volunteered for the role. I pushed rehearsals. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I did all of it because I wanted an excuse to get close to you. My entire body went warm. You infuriate me, he continued, voice soft but steady. You overthink everything. You blush when I touch you. You look at people like their stories worth telling. The audience had officially stopped breathing. And I fell for you long before the cameras ever rolled. Silence. Deafening. Terrifying. Beautiful. He stepped into my space completely. If you want this to stay acting, he murmured just loud enough for the mic to catch, say the word. I stared at him. This reckless, brilliant, terrifying man. He had just detonated our reputations on a public stage. For someone who claims to be an actor, I said slowly, my voice finally steady, you're very bad at following scripts. A faint smile tugged at his lips. So is that a no? The entire auditorium leaned forward. I stepped closer, closing the last inch between us. You kissed me first, I reminded him softly. And I kissed you back. His breath hitched. And you're still here. Yes. He searched my face. One more time, he whispered. This isn't rehearsal, I warned. Good. So I kissed him. In front of everyone. Slow. Certain. Deliberate. The auditorium erupted. Cheers. Whistles. Someone shouting, finally. Zephyr's hand settled at my waist, steady and warm. Not possessive. Not theatrical. Real. When we finally pulled apart, he was smiling, not smug. Soft. You realize, I said breathlessly, we've just made ourselves the most talked about couple on campus. Couple, he repeated, testing the word. My cheeks heated. You know what I mean. I do. He turned to the audience, squeezing my hand. I guess this counts as immersive theater, he said dryly. Laughter broke the tension. Backstage later, chaos exploded around us. Classmates demanded details. Professor Delacroix was openly crying. Authenticity, she declared dramatically. Art born of truth. Zephyr leaned toward me. She thinks this was her idea. Let her. We finally escaped the noise and slipped outside into the cool night air. For the first time all evening. Silence. Just us. He looked at me carefully. You're not overwhelmed? I am. Regretting anything? I considered it. The public confession. The rumors. The absolute social hurricane awaiting us tomorrow. Then I looked at him. The man who had chosen honesty over image. Risk over safety. No, I said quietly. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. I was offered that overseas role, he admitted. I blinked. What? It starts in 3 months. My chest tightened. And I told them I needed time. For me. For us. That word again. You don't have to choose, I said carefully. I'm not choosing between you and my career. Then what are you choosing? He stepped closer, sliding his hands into mine. I'm choosing not to run from something real. Emotion surged in my chest. I don't want to hold you back. You're not holding me back, he said softly. You're the first thing I've wanted to stay for. I laughed lightly, trying to steady myself. You're unbearably dramatic. You wrote me that way. I rolled my eyes. He grinned. Then he grew serious again. I'm going to take the role, he said. But I'm coming back. Long distance. Video calls. Visits. Annoyingly romantic airport reunions. That sounds exhausting. It will be. I smiled. But worth it. He cupped my face gently. No more pretending, he murmured. No more acting, I agreed. He leaned in slowly this time. No stage. No audience. No performance. Just warmth. Just intention. Just us. When his lips met mine, it felt different from every kiss before. Not urgent. Not experimental. Certain. And as he pulled back, resting his forehead against mine, he whispered softly. This is my favorite role. I smiled. Good. Why? Because this one, I said, brushing my thumb across his cheek. You don't have to audition for. And for the first time since this ridiculous, chaotic, intoxicating story began, neither of us was acting anymore.